So now other elements of, let's call it healing practices, spiritual versus therapy, spiritual healing versus therapy. We have the an alternative medicine, and we touched on those versus therapy. Let's call it other approaches. Yeah. Now, where, again, are they complementing to therapy, or could they be therapy replacements?
The answer is, I think, both.
Sometimes this, sometimes that, you know.
Sometimes this, sometimes that. No, the truth is that well, no, there's no truth. There's no ultimate truth here, but spiritual practices, holistic practices, healing, they can be very helpful and complementary. Mm-hmm. You just need to be mindful of what type of things you do.
Okay.
And there are also periods, you know, we talked about bioindividuality in one of the episodes.
Yes.
There's a time and place for everything. Sometimes one thing may work better than another. Mm-hmm. But right now, at the moment, there are certain practices that have become very popular, like shamanistic practices and plant-based medicine and things like that. I know people who have been helped by those, but I also know people who have been damaged by those, severely damaged as well.
Okay.
So you need to be
again careful, because of the being triggered and then not knowing what to do beyond that.
What to do beyond that, or going with unethical people, you know, when things become popular, when sacred traditions become popular. You know, I'm referring to, for example, the ayahuasca retreats. There are good and bad. There are genuine people offering genuine experiences, and they are there to support and help people who do that. But then there are also retreats where it's just a money-making machine.
Yeah.
And the money-making machine is not going to be helpful. It's probably going to be damaging.
That's true.
Or potentially damaging, not always. So I'm not targeting one practice. I'm all for spiritual practice. I'm all for spiritual healing. But again, be mindful with whom you go.
Okay, so the next layer would be meditation and mindfulness versus therapy.
Again, both.
Okay, let's first actually, let's talk about what is mindfulness and what is meditation. Like, if we'd like to define it in simple terms, because for a lot of people, this kept coming up in a lot of conversations and a lot of posts and stuff, and people have been hearing about it. They just don't actually know what it means or what it entails.
Right. Well, meditation, to begin with, you know, there are several types of meditations. There are anything from meditating with eyes open to walking to sitting with your eyes closed for hours. So meditation is a whole range of things that are basically the objective of meditation is to calm your mind. And in some forms of meditation, take control over your mind. You know, take the remote control of your mind into your own hand instead of letting it change the channel regularly on its own.
And for others, it's about alignment. It's about bringing your chakras together, for example.
Yeah.
About just being present in your body, being aware of your breath, being conscious of how your body is your posture, your sitting, your environment, your grounding, even if you're doing it within standing on grass or sitting and connecting with earth with the universe.
But that goes more, that already goes into mindfulness, being that whole awareness.
Yes.
But I think meditation is a really helpful thing for many. However, there's one caveat, and that's that meditation is not for everybody.
That's true.
It has been touted as something like, you know, now you have to be mindful and meditate. And a lot of organizations even offer these things. They can be very helpful for some people, but if you have some types of trauma, for example, meditation and mindfulness can trigger you big time. You might not be ready to go there. And then you're forced to go, or people say, oh, it's best and you have to do it. Again, feel what's good for you.
Exactly. And I think also with certain things like with anxiety and with stress, meditating could actually trigger you further, because you're putting further anxiety on yourself. I'm supposed to feel well. I'm supposed to be relaxed, and you're not. Yeah. And that kind of gets you in another loop.
Yeah. I'm so supposed to be calm. I'm so supposed to be centered, you know, and I don't do it properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So, and there's a whole variety of meditation types. So you can even explore. I have tried several before I found the one that suits me.
Same here. Yes.
And that will probably change over the years, because it has many times.
And it's amazing because, again, how one thing starts is this is supposed to benefit you, to this is going to stress you out. Like when I first started meditation as well, and for me it was, I put in my AirPods and I sat and I calmed, and I started first, I couldn't rest my mind. And I started saying, okay, you know, the question, of course, the first question that comes to your mind is, what's wrong with me? It's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. This is supposed to be the exercise. And then I started yawning. I started feeling so sleepy. I'm like, oh my God, this is not the way it's supposed to be. And I actually ended the meditation, and I Googled, should you be sleepy during and yawning? And they're like, yes, that's normal when it first starts and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's okay. But then you get other layers of people then using, you know, kind of the bands that help you with the waves of your brain. And that's how you optimize on your meditation. Or you're supposed to do your incantations along, and you're supposed to do breathing along. And there's always another layer of, again, where you get to decide what works for you versus understanding what could be causing you more anxiety and more stress, and what is not within alignment with your bio-individuality. There will always be someone else doing a whole new layer. Stress. Yeah, exactly. And you're not supposed to go
And then
there.
You have to have those right meditation clothes and the right malas and the right things and the right hand. You know, the mudras and all that jazz. Yes. And unless you do all of those perfectly, you're not really meditating.
Yeah.
So and you have to get up early, and you have to be vegan.
You can't meditate past sunset, sunrise, I mean, and then you can't do this. Oh my God, seriously. So mindfulness, and as you said, it's not the same as meditation, but how do you define mindfulness?
Being present in the here and now.
That's it. Yeah.
Being aware of what's going on in your body and in your surroundings without being hyper vigilant about it.
Exactly.
You know, mindfulness to me is really a place of calm. I was really into mindfulness in the 1990s when Kabat-Zinn, you know, wrote his first books, and I thought this was going to save the world.
Yeah. Finally, we get
and I still love it. What I don't like about the mindfulness as a movement is that it has become very commercial. So it has become this trendy thing to do, and then you have mindfulness, you perform mindfulness.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be performing mindfulness. Mindfulness is something to make you feel more centered and more aligned, by being aware of all those little things, whether it's your breath, whether it's hand, you know, movements, whether it's what you eat, whether it's what you hear, what you see. I think that for many people around the world these days, not even just Westerners, but many people, it's very helpful to have a focus that calms your mind and takes you back to your body and to your senses. It's very, very helpful. And I do mindfulness practices daily. I've incorporated them. They're just sort of like my routine.
Yes.
Like brushing teeth. So I don't even think about it. Or if there are situations where I get off, I get triggered, I have my set of tools that I can use to bring me back.
Yes. And for me,
but it should be something that's positive.
Yeah,
It
that's the
should be something
point.
that's helpful, you know, like meditation should be something that's helpful. It might sometimes be hard. It's hard to be mindful in certain situations when we get triggered, but it's a practice. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
And I think it's also, as you said, it's the tools and it's the environment. For me, mindfulness is a practice about, first is about understanding that I need to be present. I need to focus. And this is where I kind of funnel in my energy and my focus and my time and my effort on whatever I'm doing now. And understanding for me that when I started doing that, I'm less anxious about other things. I'm worrying about what I need to do next or what I needed to do and I didn't get to or whatever it is. And that's how I started compartmentalizing my day. So if I decide I'm going to do this for an hour, I'm going to do this with all of me in an hour. And I started being more aware of what are the elements that I could put alongside that helped me go through this mindfulness. For me, it's reaching a state of flow. So whether that is a certain smell, aroma, that essential oils that I would burn, certain type of music, um, I found painting, especially painting my colors and numbers and those kind of things, painting my colors, painting my
it's the best.
Yes, the puzzles, Lego, building Lego sets. For me, that was it, because I actually use these to study, to listen to episodes, because I'm in that state of flow and I know I'm receiving at that time. And these are things that make me happy. I mean, for a lot of it, my husband, he doesn't do puzzles. They stress him out. It's like, where can you not find this piece? And I could do 5,000 piece puzzle and take one by one and do this. It's kind of, it just gets me into that state of mind.
Yes. Yes.
But from that, I realized, okay, then if I want to focus on this, I want to bring all my energy into this. I want to bring my, literally just funnel into this. If I'm not done within half an hour, that's okay. Now I move on to the next thing. My family time block of the day is non-compromisable, as in, I don't care what else is happening. My phone rings 10 times. I don't care. When that block is done and I've enjoyed it and, you know, kind of gotten the maximum out of it, then I can attend to whatever happens next. I know it's for a lot of people, it's easier said than done, but this is not, it's not a one-day practice. And it really takes a lot of iterations, as you said, to find what works for you and what helps you to reach that state of mind, to have the tools.
All by and large, you know, just bringing that, what you were saying, like having those blocks and bringing that calm into your life. I find it, my best mindfulness practice years ago was to make my life simpler.
Yes, that's true.
I got rid of so many things. I actually got rid of my TV at the time.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen on my side.
I now have a TV, but you know, for many, many years I didn't have one.
Yeah.
And I still don't watch. I watch movies, but I don't watch TV. And it was amazing how much space it gave me.
Yes.
The ability to just be calm, read a book, write something, you know, do puzzles or something. That's just the way I operate.
Yeah.
And everybody is unique. So we have, but by and large, I think that most people can benefit from reducing noise and reducing what's going on around them.
That's true. So leading from that and reducing to increasing, positive psychology.
Yeah, positive psychology is a fantastic field of psychology, a relatively recent one, and it's very popular at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally actually counter movement, but Martin Seligman, who developed positive psychology, said, like, why do we always talk about the pathology of mental health? Mm-hmm. It's like, what's wrong with you? It's always about what's wrong with you, and never what are the strengths, what are the good things, you know, what are the benefits of this? Yeah. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful movement, and it has brought in a lot of good tools, you know, strength-based things and just flow, even, you know, the whole concept of flow comes from positive psychology.
Yes.
Positive psychology is helpful and it's really good but it's not like cure it all. Being positive all the time just for the sake of positivity is just fooling yourself. There's a positive psychology book called The Upside of Your Dark Side.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it again, you know, we have layers and we have a darker side. Jung talked a lot about this, you know, unless we address our shadow and the darker side in us, those hidden undercurrents, we cannot be whole, we cannot be healed.
No.
So you can address the positives, and you should, you know, knowing your strengths, and especially the strength-based things, I think it's fantastic. And there are many other applications of positive psychology that I am an advocate for, and I use those tools as much as possible. But the toxic positivity is not really positive psychology.
Yes.
Those are completely different things. That's not positive psychology. Positive psychology is grounded in actual real psychology and real science. Toxic positivity is wishful thinking.
And toxic positivity is as well is being dismissive of what people are feeling and any negative emotions they're feeling now, and saying, no, you can't feel that way. You should feel good. And I think that for me was actually one of the main things that triggered my healing. It was because, what are you complaining about? It's like, when you ask that question, that in itself is toxic positivity. It's like, yes. What are you complaining about? You've got, you know, others don't have this. I'm like, but I have the right to say, I am not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not gratified, regardless of what's happening. It doesn't mean that I'm not grateful for what I've got or how far I've come or what I've achieved. It just means something is not sitting right with me. Something's out of alignment. I'm not well on one level or another. And we get that right. But those that oppose this, that block this for us, this processing for us, that's what, from my perspective, that's what toxic positivity is about. No, you can't feel this way. You should feel good. You know, come on, what's wrong with you? You know, be happy.
Have you been writing a gratitude journal? That really helps.
Exactly. And I started doing that for myself, actually. You know what? It started with me. I started holding that space for myself before I could look at myself and be critical of how I'm conducting, because there are a lot of times I found myself trying to block myself from feeling those feelings.
Yes.
And again,
yes. That's a brilliant way of putting it. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I started saying, okay, instead of just saying, no, you can't feel that, I started asking, why am I feeling that? And then going and doing my personal processing, because of all the tools and all the people that are around me that have equipped me in a way to go back and say, okay, what could have triggered this? What could be the source of this? Is this something I need to address further with, let me reach out to Susanna and do our healing session? Or is this something that I need to work through? Or is this just something I needed to recognize that it is there? So now I know how to handle it the next time it comes up for me.
Yeah.
And thus by holding that space for ourselves, then we're coming from a place, again, I know I use this a lot, but for me, it's about coming from a place of service. I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. I'm here to augment and receive. So I'm giving and I'm receiving. And I think this is how I'm counteracting toxic positivity in my life. And again, there are those around us that would still feel you being upbeat about things and you deciding and choosing to switch your perspective and your worldview lens and looking at things from a different angle. For them, that's toxic positivity. Well, I can't help you if that's still how you see it. I'm not asking you.
That's, but I don't think that's really toxic positivity, because that's, just reframing things is a different story. And there is post-traumatic growth. But there's always, there are people who might criticize you for being, give them, for example, if we look at one area where this is quite common is narcissism.
Yeah.
When people have been victims of narcissists. like, how can you forgive someone? And you know, like that's like you're just trying to fool yourself. I saw some really interesting writings recently about that too, as well. That's if you have moved on, that's a completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you can have a perspective and post-traumatic growth,
Yes.
that's a completely different place from saying like, oh, I forgive and I love everybody and everything is hunky-dory.
No.
And sometimes in our minds, in people's minds, it's they have a hard time making this distinction. But again, to go back to positive psychology, I think it's great. And there are wonderful concepts, and there are many people, good people out there talking about it. And there are books that are really worth reading. So by all means, go for it. But only positive psychology, research, science.
Yes, that's again, find
And everything that's called positive psychology
certified stuff that works. So from positive psychology to neuroscience. Again, that is a field where, from our understanding, it's like the discoveries we have understood about our brains and our nervous system and the connection between our brain and body over the past 20 to 30 years have been phenomenal compared to what we knew before. And that is still a very...
Even past 5 years.
Exactly. Still a very under-researched, under-revealed field. And it's fascinating, the things that are coming up. So neuroscience versus therapy, once again.
Neuroscience is, again, a fantastic field. It's closely linked to trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And in the trauma field, you have a lot of people who researchers and people who have made big progress in this area. So if you're interested in neuroscience from a healing perspective, then I do recommend that you search people who have had who are trauma researchers, for example. You know, all of those books, The Body Keeps a Score, and When the Body Says No, and there's, you know, several other, there's Peter Levine, Somatic Experiencing, there's the polyvagal theory. There are numerous things that are out there at the moment that are helping us in understanding how the body works, how the mind-body connection works, actually.
Yes.
And how our biology is so much stronger sometimes than our cognitive minds.
Yes.
Or not even sometimes, actually, how our biology is stronger than our cognitive mind, our thinking mind. That's actually here in the frontal lobes. So I love neuroscience because it gives tools to people who are working on themselves. And it does take away a lot of the shame. Certain types of interventions from neuroscience are extremely helpful in reframing the shame and guilt. When things have happened to you, they are in your nervous system. They are coded in your nervous system. They're not because you're going crazy.
Yes.
But this, I think we must do an episode about this, because this is a topic that's so vast.
Yes.
And I could talk for hours on this.
It's emerging, and there are a lot of people researching it. And the beautiful thing is they're bringing to our attention a lot of the things that we didn't think, like that what you think manifests in your body, and then accordingly you reflect in your own actions and choose how life gets to you. I don't know. It's, for me, it was like, seriously, I've actually been thinking a lot of things into existence, and most of them were not good things. I mean, most of them were for me, it was disempowering things. And I was in control of that. And it's that part. What are you in control of? And your subconscious and your unconscious and your consciousness. And this is a field that is fascinating on so many levels.
Well, 95% of us, I mean, is unconscious.
Yes.
So there's a lot to unearth.
And neuroscience now is telling you that you can start reprogramming that unconsciousness to serve you one way or another, parts of it at least.
When you say unprogramming,
reprogram,
I don't know.
Recondition?
Maybe recondition. Yeah, unprogram. I understand what you're saying, but there's still the healing element that needs to happen. So
Yes,
there is no shortcut.
Yeah.
The caveat here for me is that there's no shortcut. You can't just say, oh, let me reprogram my nervous system and I'm all good.
No, it's
Because
a lot of
believe
work.
me, there are so many people who want that. Okay, I have identified my trauma. So how can I fix this now? And trauma healing and nervous system healing does not happen overnight. It takes time.
Yeah.
It's even counterproductive for us to do it really, really quickly. It may blow up our nervous system if we try to push it too hard. Our bodies really know they have their own timing. So it's good to do it slowly and steadily rather than trying to fix it all. But we are by nature, we don't like pain, we like pleasure.
Exactly.
So we just want that pleasure and we want it now. And nervous system healing does not work that way. So patience, kindness, mindfulness, meditation, taking care of yourself, your body, all of these things that we've discussed are good.
Okay, so bringing it all full circle, and we are talking about mental wellness within the workplace and the elements we've addressed, whether that is mindfulness or meditation or friends and family and colleagues. Let's add colleagues to that since we're talking about the workplace. Is there anything that, whether from your perspective as someone who works in the place or from the perspective of the leaders within the organizations, that could support? I know you touched on this, like there are now organizations that support meditation spaces or that support yoga sessions for their employees and stuff. Are there, what are some tools or what are some strategies that could bring us to addressing these within the workplace for augmented workplace mental health, mental wellness?
The most important thing for me is the holistic approach, that organizations and the decision makers in the organizations gain a better understanding of what's really going on. Leaders, managers, they by and large have no idea how mental health works. It's not part of their training. We're not trying to replace them to be a therapist, coaches, but having the basic understanding of how the mind functions and how the nervous system functions, for example, is tremendously helpful in helping others.
Mm-hmm.
The better you know yourself, the more you can help others, right?
Yes. Empowered you empowers others is my slogan.
Yeah. Exactly. So ideally, I'd like to see workplaces really have more of therapy plus mindfulness plus meditation space plus coaching, wellness programs. This whole holistic approach where we understand that we are beings that are multifaceted and we have to take care of all of those elements in order to feel well. Not just trying to optimize. What's happening at the moment is that many organizations are frantically searching for answers on what to do, but there's also let's optimize one thing. Let's take these online courses and let's make everybody go through this anxiety training. Check the box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Rather than doing that, taking a bird's view and a top like really large view of what is it that we could bring, what is it that we can do simply and easily. How can we make this simple and easy and accessible? It doesn't have to be a fancy program. It doesn't have to be a fancy something. It can. Most of these things can be done relatively cost-free or with low cost and with simple interventions. But it requires that holistic understanding and putting things in place so that the support and the foundation is there.
I think so. Yeah.
And let me give you a concrete example of this because it's important. There are organizations that have, for example, mental health or wellness programs.
Yes.
People don't know about them. Or when they try to access them, they aren't really available or they're only partially available. Or they are catering to a certain group. I mean, it's really is at its infancy, and I think that what we're going to see during the next 10 years, I predict that we're going to see a really huge shift in the way we do mental wellness at work. There are more and more people who realize that this cannot go on. We cannot have 90% or 80% of our people feeling sick at work.
Yeah. And if the whole point is, again, I always, it fascinates me how when we talk about workplace and work environments and stuff, we tend to overlook the fact that we're all humans as in individuals that make up the organization. And we talk about the organization like, that's a third person and it's an entity in itself, but it is made up of us. And us as in every single human has their own environment and their own issues and their families and things they want to take care of. And by advocating for mental wellness, for me, I'm doing it for you, I'm doing it for the next person. It's not something that we are doing in isolation. And it does have, and that's a fascinating part, everything we do in our life, especially within the work environment, has a ripple impact effect. Empowered you empowers others, but you can't come from an empty cup. You can't give from an empty cup. And
you kind of, that's right. That's right.
And that in itself is how organizations should think, that they can't expect people working with them within the organization to give from empty cups. And how do you fill that cup? As you said, it's cheap, easy, possibly free solutions that just take the first step of awareness and then intent. And beyond that, it's not smooth sailing.
Vulnerability and courage.
That too.
From the leaders.
Yes.
There are some excellent examples of organizations where leaders have come out and said, I was depressed or I had this mental health issue and let's talk about it more openly. And I would, stigma is the biggest issue in the workplace around feeling well.
Yes.
And trying to look good and productive. And, that is the modern sickness. Yes. This fake image that we have to project. We're not allowed to be vulnerable human beings, but we have to perform and be something that we are not when we can't actually, we have to remain professional. Yeah. Professionalism is a word that is a good cover up for a lot of problems.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And when we can go more towards that vulnerability and that genuineness, I think that will also shift, but that will take a little bit time. Wow. We're not there yet, but I hope that we will see that day, not into
That's very deep-rooted stigma, and we need to, the association of vulnerability and weakness or inadequacy, that needs a lot more work there.
We're just human beings. That's part of being human.
Theoretically, yes. I think we just tend to forget that we're not machines, and we're not, we should not be expecting of ourselves or of others to perform at optimal levels at all times. Again, because optimal level is a very subjective term and it means different things to different people.
That's right.
And we need to recognize and vocalize that a lot more. Susanna, it's been amazing. And I love our discussions, and I'm hoping that we are adding a lot of value to those listening to us and those seeing us. And again, please do reach out to us. Please interact with us and let us know if there are any topics you would like us to delve deeper into, if there are any topics we haven't addressed yet and possibly you need us to touch on. Again, we are not here to replace therapy in any way or any type of mental health support. We are here to collectively raise our awareness on the issues and the topic of mental wellness, to advocate for it for ourselves and for others, and hopefully initiate our healing journeys along the way. Thank you, Susanna.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you for being with us. And we'll see you next time on this special series of Demystifying Mental Wellness in the Workplace. Bye for now.